So after China, it's time for Japan, but I'm going to talk about more in the perspective of how we actually experience working with Japan, but not that much of you guys going there, but what happens when they come here. So my lovely partner Jana told me that if I don't include this slide, she's going to kill me. So first of all, happy 8th of March again. And definitely think about the equal pay that we need to have in our society. So Jana, this slide is for you. Yeah, another not a design talk, but I'll try to keep it short as possible and must be useful as possible for you guys. So basically, I'm going to talk about the Japanese market. What do we see there, and what things are going to happen in the next couple of years? How to do martial arts with them and not get killed. Also very important aspect, or doing business with them. And some couple of additional interesting stories. I'm actually a designer background and strongly been working in Estonia for 45 years, and most of my years I was part as trained at Wiseman as a UX designer. And afterwards I moved into business development, and basically with DeltaHeroes we try to get more into the strategic partnership aspect. But I've been working also with most of the Baltic and Estonian players beforehand. So basically with DeltaHeroes we really want to be a kind of a bridge between Japan and Baltics, because we see that it's kind of a missed opportunity. They still consider us as one country. 98% of the investments, they go to West Europe, and they kind of miss completely this region. So we want to bring a bit more visibility, but also a bit of more hands-on experiences of actually Japanese company trying to work with Baltic startups and Baltic enterprises. And we basically started with this. We started organizing business delegations, and there were quite many actually Japanese people coming to Estonia. Perhaps you have seen them already in the summertime. And they had different needs, and we started to realize that it's not only about basic tourism, but it's also about basically getting to understand what's happening in the ecosystem. And that's what we wanted to, from a simple kind of a agency that deals these business delegations, we want to actually focus more nowadays on matchmaking, meaning that we create like strategic partnerships and really trying to understand how Estonian companies could bring value more to Japan and vice versa. And basically we started building our own network, starting with the Estonian ecosystem, including also Latvia and also the Korean and Japanese organizations. And then further on, moving on with our clients, which include nowadays JBIC, Nichigas, and some other associations from Japan. So let me get this like quickly here. And what we have seen here in Japan for the past years is that we definitely have a quite a big aging problem. So it's Japan, we're going to have 40% of their population is going to be 65 plus in 2050, which is a quite big number. And also, this will also determine how Japan will move. So from economy that has been always on the front of innovation and really powerhouse of people, they have to move to something else now. And also in terms of economy, we have seen that from third biggest economy, it might actually fall to fourth and even ninth according to latest resources. So actually they are in kind of a trouble. So they need to find some kind of innovation catalysts in order to basically be again a forefront of business. And also the fact is that, like Shen mentioned, urbanization. Like if you go to Japan, basically, if you visit the prefectures of Tokyo, Yokohama, Osaka, and Nagoya, you're pretty much going to cover 40% of the population of Japan, which is quite staggering. But if we're talking about competitiveness and how foreign companies still consider Japan, of course, there's many barriers, and of course, the still Japanese government is trying to fight the monopoly, and they added additional like legislations for electricity companies, for oil companies and manufacturers, but still the monopoly is quite strong in Japan. And the other aspect is that SMEs in Japan don't produce that much actually wealth enough, and they're actually lacking around 10% from the average SMEs that that produce in Europe. So we have a kind of a big inefficiency in that sense. So big players are there, and they're there because well, most of the companies you see here on this slide are actually 60 years already, and some of them actually established 90 years. So we have three big kind of industry in Japan that are really kind of controlling the country in a sense. So we have the automotive, of course, the manufacturers, and a lot of the e-commerce players which are starting to become more and more strong, including Softbank, which is becoming like a kind of a digital mastodon, and also has a big venture arm. And through that, they also started to go even further, and they also realized that there should be some kind of a bet that they have to give back to the market, and they have to concentrate on a couple of aspects. So first, of course, is the robotics, again connected to the fact that they will need some kind of a power because of the aging population. IoT, because they need to connect those sensors. And of course, you need to help the people to live better in the wellness aspect. So we think that these are, excuse me, these are the three kind of major verticals that Japan is going after. And in terms of digital penetration, when it's quite quite self-explanatory. We're gonna have internet penetration of 92%. We're going to have almost the whole country, 119 million internet users. And also the fact that they will start purchasing more and more money on digital platforms is also very important. So this will be $2,500 per year in just 3 years ahead. Now, when it comes down, of course, to business size, we cannot avoid the aspect of the entrepreneurial scene. So I guess you guys, some of you are startups and also people which are involved some way on small companies. So we need to understand that also how things are going there. So we have seen that young people in Japan are started to be more aware of the startups. And they are, for instance, they as students already incorporate companies in the university, and that's kind of a big number already, and it increases 2 times for the last 10 years. And also the fact is that venture capital per se is not very strong in Japan, but still trying to get traction. And it reached 2.5 billion already US dollars. With that being said, if you are a startup and if you are a kind of Japanese startup who wants to do some kind of exit strategy, the number one solution for you will be actually to do an IPO, which is quite popular in Japan. By popular, I mean this is what happened to Mercari, for instance, who made a successful IPO for 1.2 billion. And followed by a company who's dealing with improving robotics with algorithms with 2 billion worth. I think they haven't started yet their IPO process, but they still people are valuing that company for that. So as you can see, kind of a really different kind of dimension of what entrepreneurship means for us. And when we're talking about corporate capital, it's still in the #1, and we have seen that because only Toyota Ventures has committed $1 billion in a fund which will focus on deep tech, and also Sony is going to get their fund running for 90 million. So I think this really indicates how determined are they in those kind of verticals, deep tech and AI. And about Softbank in general, because you cannot, if you talk about Japan, you cannot escape the fact that these guys are investing quite heavily, and comparing to Anders Horowitz or Sequoia, so they have been investing about 9.3 billion in Uber. And just to give you these red circles there represent their investments, and on the top are the Western type of investors who deal with the same companies. I do recommend to follow this guy, James Rini, and he's now part of the 500 startups in Japan, and they recently also opened a fund which focus also on European startups who want to go to Japan, and I think this could be like a good match for you guys if you're in a small company looking to expansion. Now, if we talk about Estonia and Japan, of course, we have already seen like quite a substantial success stories in the face of Mitsubishi, who also did a lot of electricity charging stations here in Estonia. Rakuten bought FitsMe. Taizuson from Mistletoe invested in Lipin and Jobatico, Thunderbeam, and also the fact that Estonian companies such as Linkfist is already selling actively to Japan. So I think we have, as Estonian, quite substantial already hype created about our country and how can we do business there. And it's becoming also evident by the fact that the trade between those countries is improving. We have exported around 71 million euro worth of services. Of course, these include mostly wood products and machineries, but there are many others which come just into that number. And little by little, Japan is becoming really a very, very important trade partner for Estonia. And we've been like all over the place there. Like you cannot imagine, like I've seen like books written in Japanese about Estonian e-services, all kinds of blogs about how cool is Tallinn, go there, visit the bars. Then it's this, then TV stations, and then when you're on TV, and especially Boruto's case, perhaps you know the Estonian sumo. So when you're in TV in Japan, that's it. Like you validate it, you have a stamp there, and then basically everybody now knows about Estonia. And surprisingly, many Japanese think that Boruto is the #1 guy who you need to contact for Estonia. I'm not sure how representative that is, but still they're really keen to meet him. But also in terms of the recent developments in this is the new opening of a new fund called Nordic Ninja, and they now are Japanese/Finnish, Swedish type of fund that will be actually looking at more closely on Baltics and Nordic startups. So I think this is like kind of a game changer because it really tries to kind of change the game. And they have LPs from Sony and Panasonic, and I think this will also bring more fresh capital and really not only hype but actual development. And the recent trade agreement between European entities and Japan was quite staggering because it was a deal dealt with many years, and finally they got it. And this will open up, of course, a lot of possibilities for EU companies to export, but also Japanese companies to import from machinery to food and beverages. So it's kind of opening the gates to that market, and that's very, very cool. Yeah. So that was the boring part. So a bit of stories now, and like also what have been our experience so far with dealing with Japanese clients. And as Chen mentioned, the Chinese are demanding, then the Japanese are ultra demanding. So, and this is when maybe things get a bit nasty for you guys. So first of all, the word gaijin means foreigner in Japanese, but sometimes it's connotated to something more evil, like an alien, a white person coming from the ship, trying to steal your wife and things like that. So they tend to have not only the best connotations to this word, is because just that throughout the centuries it got like a bit confused. So for good or bad, you'll always be considered a gaijin. And that's something you need to, of course, understand and perhaps utilize, and maybe will save you in negotiating with them in many cases, because you can play that you didn't understand that. And when we talk about communication, of course, we need to understand that they are very, very precise on details, and then you should also understand that the patience is #1 key to actually get the deal through with them. We have friends of ours and partners who are telling us that on average they spend a year to actually make a sale for 100K in Japan. So this could kind of give you an overview of what's going to happen if you really want to do and push things there. And of course, when we talk about business etiquettes, you need to be careful how you start and from the fact how you dress, which has to be preferably with a nice suit. They might tell you that your suit is not that preferable. It happens in meetings, actually. And then we had also a case that I accidentally, instead of the super boss, I started introducing people by the management, the sub-managers. And then the super boss just looked at me and I didn't know what is going on. And that was a mega fail. Like, be careful how you how you introduce to people. And also be very, very accommodative. Be very when you have to take them from the airport, you need to give them presents. If a client comes to Japan to Tallinn, for instance, he will. You have to expect that you need to bring him like the best of the best, and you don't tell them, yeah, use this Uber, or go to this address. This is your hotel. No, they'll expect you that you'll take them from the airport, and there will be an interpreter there, and then you're gonna show them the room, and that's possible, and that's very important. And then, of course, with the interpretation, you understand like how difficult it is. They do understand English, actually, most of their management boards. Just the problem is that they won't speak it to you, and then they don't like speaking English. They like listening, but they don't like speaking. So that's why you need an interpreter. And we had also a case with a client that he was trying to understand like what is the age of the interpreter. And at the beginning I didn't understand what that he meant. He was asking something like, are there many young Japanese in Tallinn? I was like, yes. Aha, so they speak Japanese. And what about your interpreter? I was like, yeah, she speaks Japanese. Aha, so she's also young. And I was like, no. She's so not really, but okay. And then I realized that the interpreter just has to be on a kind of a similar age with the ones that you're going to visit as a delegation, and this is for them very important. And it comes down to culture and basically understanding and respect. And well, this is kind of clear that you need to be as much as possible understandable for them. They might do strange things if they don't understand your presentation. They might just go for lunch in the middle of it if it's too technical. That's something that we need to also understand. And at the beginning we thought that they know technology, and but eventually we figure out that even higher management boards from Toyota, Hitachi, they're still asking us questions. Why Estonia is forgetting about, why Estonia is not using paper anymore? Paper is the best medium of exchange, and basically this is how we run our communication. Why Estonia is going to digital anyway? So we have to explain that to them as well sometimes. And so you have to also understand that they will also tell you in very long emails that they like you and they like your proposition and they like your product. And then like you're super, yeah, I'm in, yeah, no. And they're just trying to say no to you, but in a very polite way. And after 7 or 9 emails, you realize that you're wasting your time. So many Japanese, for instance, came to Estonia because they thought that we used Estcoin as a payment method. And then everything is run on blockchain in Estonia. Yeah, literally the tram, the society, I mean, your fridge, everything's on blockchain, right, in Estonia, which is kind of cool. It creates hype about the country, but then eventually we had to explain them that, hey, there's actually quite different things here. And yeah, be sure that they have to understand their pains and what you can provide. And then the faster you actually kind of take them to the reality, the better, because they really have a kind of a different image of Estonia in that sense, and they don't have all the details. And this, of course, will create eventually the real trust that you need to accomplish something with them. There's one guy in the skyscraper who's calling the shots, and perhaps in China is the same, but they look in Japan that they are they're having these board meetings and that everybody express his opinion. But actually, there's one guy who's gonna call the shots, and you have to find that guy and really try to get him through either your evangelist champion or whatever who knows in the organizations. I think the best way is really to start from the day one to investigating who is that person actually. And usually when they come to Estonia, they don't send that person. It will be some kind of a C-level manager, or like low-level management or mid-management who will be actually scouting for opportunities, and he will come back to that boss. So be careful with that as well. And yeah, details. Again, you'll have a lot of long emails about explaining each point. Talking about the value of this champion, of course, you have to consider that still you need somebody to represent you, either a distributor or a sales agent. Well, the question is how to find it. The best way is actually to ask somebody, an European one, a guy who can actually, or girl that she can recommend you. We had a case again with a company they did I think quality assurance software, and they really fed up with working with Japan, but they come back again to the Japanese market, and they were telling me that the only reason why they come back to Japan is because in their client's office there's one Belgium guy who can talk to, and basically they understand them culturally. So this how it created this special connection and basically this role of a sales agent internally in the company. So I think actually those gaijins which are in Tokyo, they're quite important now, and you should get in contact with them. And there are a couple of actually Estonian lads which are in Tokyo at the moment, indirectly working for your residency. So they could be like your really top one first contacts to do that. Of course, you can go to Baruto, but I don't. It's also an option, of course. And also the commission starts from 10%. You have to also understand that it's not an easy country to do cold calling, and I don't advise you to do that. In terms of incorporations, technically you can get like incorporated in Japan with all the costs for a small SME with $2,500. Also, the fact is that capital-wise for the company, it could be technically with 1 yen, but in reality you need to invest around $40,000 to get like this so-called business management visa that you can actually operate as a normally. So you need to actually have quite substantial amount if you're a small company in the bank to actually start with Japan. And what I have learned, of course, throughout these meetings is also meeting Japanese companies who look for something in Estonian, but also Estonian companies who try to sell to Japan, is also that they really look for those enterprise solutions in Estonia. This could be also e-government solutions or partly data providers. If you're into cosmetics and wellness, that's good. A couple of Estonian companies are already doing this. Eco-friendly food, they are doing this. Chaga, I think, was the latest one. Good story that they went to Japan. Robotics and space tech have also been quite in their minds, and they are asking us to contact to these kind of companies. But also the fact that they are searching for talented developers to join their operations. And this is quite common as well, that they're asking us to recommend somebody. Although by that means that you need to, the usual case is that the Japanese company wants to allocate you there in Japan. And you might need to learn also Japanese, which is, by the way, a very easy language to learn. Like, it takes only a century to do that. So, yeah. And of course, to be inspired is the last big thing that they really look for in Estonia to do. And very, very strong topic is the blockchain and crypto. For them, it's kind of still a hype in their head. And although like some of the Estonian services are still helped by the blockchain tech, they really want to utilize something on that vertical. And we have seen also in Korea and Japan that quite substantial investments in that vertical as well, and that's why they also look for talented people that could help them in that. More on crypto and blockchain, by the way, very soon in Workland we're going to have a small seminar about that as well, so feel free to join us on Tuesday. So finally, I think two takeaways is really to try to understand the real motivations, why are they here, if they come, and if also when you go there, and really try to understand their pain. Really value, focus on the how you gonna take them comfort with your business culture and what you will say in each time. So there should be something in your head as a good scenario from every detail possible. And this will also help you basically build the real important trust factors for when you work with Japanese people. Arigato, and I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you.